All right, we are live. We are live. I'm coming out to you at 5. Welcome to the Quarantine Lounge downtown here on channel G 2786. This is Gavin Richard. Welcome to another episode of Family of Gavin Richard Presents. Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are having a blessed, excuse me, blessed day. It is now Wednesday. It is midnight. It's still Tuesday. Good morning, good evening to you, and good morning here Central Standard Time in the Big Easy. Hope all is well. Hope everyone's doing great. Uh, Guys couldn't see the last clip. Um, Not the last clip, but the actual screenshot that I had in the thumbnail. I'll explain to you in a minute what this show is about. And you can also look in the description. You can see the hyperlink that I have that we're talking about. But whoever's in the chat room, we're trying to get some more people. I did a video with brother Sean James. He has the Sean James channel on YouTube. Please subscribe to it. And I gave him, I let him gave him permission to upload our interview to his channel. It was pretty good, to say the least. We've gotten positive feedback. Uh, Nothing but positive feedback, and we will have him on the show again to discuss different topics and issues. So, thank you all for that. To donate to this movement, to my channel, to keep the party going because, as you know, I know things are tight right now, but it costs a lot to get production of videos going, especially if you want quality videos, if you want things that are not so janky. I try to be straightforward, and I just talk to you guys like a normal guy would during these times. But hope all is well. We're doing this live stream. We're trying to get video because I need obviously to get some more support going on with these things. And it's saying my channel's trying to reconnect. Okay, so we're reconnecting. Guys, I'm sorry too if you watched the latest video and I looked at the live stream that I had with Sean. It appeared that my channel had some issues with the streaming. Although you can hear me, I was breaking in and out. So I apologize for that. But in this part of the house, I'm going to try to keep this live stream going under 20 minutes at best. But if you guys don't know, obviously from my earlier statements, I had a thumbnail that I put for this video. You guys would recognize the actor. But since you don't know who Carson, TC Carson, he's an actor. He's also a musician, but he starred on a show, co-starred on a show called Living Single. And back in the day, if anybody remembers Living Single, please type it in the chat box if you could. TC Carson was on the show Living Single. Kim Coles, Kim Fields, Erica Alexander, John Kent. John got his break on Tonight Show with Johnny Carson in the early 90s and never had an agent, killed the show. And finally, he was getting on bit parts in like Living Color. Eventually, he landed a part of Overton Jones in the single. And of course, you may remember him also. He was in the Hughlings, which was on the ABC and UPN in the late 90s to early 2000s with D.L. Hughley. So, long story short, but Living Single back in the day was on a Fox channel with back in the day on Thursday nights, I believe. It was Living Single, Martin, Living Single, and Living Color, and New York Undercover. Now, and in the early 90s, that rivaled NBC's Must See TV. Now, Brother T.C. Carson was on, and he talked about while he was on the show, the writers and producers wanted to literally make the two male characters that he had, that he played Kyle, the fix-it man of the building. So, and they lived together. So they wanted to make those characters, as he said, stereotypical and almost like a black Lenny and Squiggy from Laverne and Shirley. And he refused to do. They refused to do that. They knew what direction they were trying to go with the show. And they stated, according to TC, that they would not do a show uh, where these black men was who was successful would be stepping and jiving in front of these four black women. And he always made suggestions, and according to TC, he was basically the spokesperson for the group. Well, eventually, after 4 seasons, even though he was part of the original cast, and upon being fired, he didn't even know he was going to be fired until the season finale episode had aired. Within 2 minutes later, after it aired, he got a phone call from his lawyer stating that Fox was not renewing, or I'm going to assume it's Fox because Fox was a network, but yeah, they would not renew his contract. And as a result of him not renewing his contract, he even claims, they had promised him he was coming back because the way they wrote the series was that the character of Kyle Barker was going to London, just to pursue a new career for his work, for his job. And off again, on again, relationship with the character, Maxine Waters, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was her last name. But Maxine, and this show, Living Single, was very positive back in the day because even though it was made as a comedy, you had five, five, four successful black women, beautiful black women. The Regine character, which was played, she worked with her cousin Khadijah as Khadijah's own magazine company, and Max was a preacher. And Erica Alexander, of course, she got her start on the Cosby Show back in the early '90s when she played Pam, I believe, Cliff's and Claire's niece. And you can actually read this on Wikipedia. They talked about New York Undercover. They mentioned how Fox News marketed I said Fox News, excuse me, the Fox Network, had actually marketed and targeted black audiences to rival that of NBC's Must See TV Thursdays. And I remember around that time as a kid, uh, around 1992, 1993, when Martin came on in particular, and uh, when those shows came on, they were basically put on Thursday nights in the '90s, and because black audiences flocked to that. And New York Undercover, of course, which was a positive show, it was a police drama that was created by Dick Wolf and Kevin Arcady. It was the first police drama that showed two people of color. They were in J.C. Williams was the detective, and the detective for Michael De Lorenzo play was Eddie Torres. And those men were popular, at that time. It was a hip hop show because they had one of the features of the show at the end. They would have an R&B star that would come on and then use the hip hop soundtrack. And even back then, that was very controversial because of what was going on at that time with the East Coast West Coast rivalry. Although it wasn't an East Coast West Coast rivalry, it was something that was created by the press and the media between Tupac and Biggie and so forth. And one of the episodes actually mirrored. I remember on Sun Hollywood that comes on TV1. They talk in depth about it. You can actually go to YouTube and probably see the episode where they talked about it. But that was very controversial at that time, and I think Malik Yobe even said he felt some type of way. Judge Joe Brown calls it milk yogurt, over that stuff he did with the Breakfast Club and uh, how he's into transgenders and so forth. That's not why I'm talking about this guys tonight. So that's not the story. But nevertheless, can y'all hear me? If you can, like this video, everybody let me know if they okay. Well, kid when we saw blacks on the television, and it wasn't just on Fox when they obviously had New York Undercover. They had Living Single, of course, but and I did love New York Undercover. And I loved it Live in Color more than anything because the Wayne's family was just crazy. The ideas that they came up with, clearly things that we all thought about but never did. Like, for instance, when they did the Arsenio Hall spoof, and Keenan is Arsenio Hall. interviewing Marion Barry. This was an actual sketch, and to mirror. Okay, I'm sorry guys, I had connection problem. To mirror the Arsenio Hall's mannerisms the way he did, like Arsenio would be staring into space, and we would always see that when Arsenio would interview someone, because he was a bad interviewer at times. And when you think about it, once these shows came out, then other new networks that started, the UPNs with Moesha and One. There was Girlfriends. There was the game that started out of there, and let's not forget also there was a show about slavery. I think Steiner came on it, if I'm not mistaken. And then, of course, Warner Brothers did the same thing with WB. They had the Wayans brothers. That was their flagship show. They had The Parenthood right after that. They had uh, Smart Guy. There was also some other shows. I can't think of it if they were around last long. I know they had the Happily Ever After show. Of course, those shows only lasted 4 or 5 seasons on your WB because around that same time, the WB and UPN merged with each other. And once they were able to get their white base of young white teenagers that could watch their shows like Smallville and Buffy and Seven Heaven, all of these things, they did not need your black TV shows anymore. And unfortunately, when we don't own anything, when you have no control over your media, when you have no control, and your actors and actresses go broke, unfortunately, in some circumstances, not all the time, but that typically happens. There were other shows too. I remember that on ABC and NBC. Of course, we know that with your Cosby Show, the Cosby Show is what actually saved him. Sean and I talked about this, which is why I wanted to do this topic tonight. The Cosby Show single-handedly the late Gene Stapleton, created by Norman Lear. And if you remember, that show that dealt with very serious issues of race and sex and color and religion. And you had a bigot like Archie Bunker that was saying these things that no one ever said on television before, had not said on TV before, and did it in a situation of comedy. And it broke the rule in the 80s. They did not have, because television shows like uh, Dallas and Knots Landing and Magnum PI, which were on the rival network CBS, were dominating the ratings. And of course, soap operas dominated that time, primetime soap. But nevertheless, Cosby came along. Brandon Chernikov gave Cosby uh, NBC show, and Cosby, of course, had done an I Spy previously on NBC, so NBC had a special place in Cosby's heart, I believe, which is why he wanted to do the Cosby Show there. And he also had the A Different World that spun off from it. And at that time, the only shows that were really dominating on NBC that were their best hits were shows like Different Strokes and Facts of Life. I believe the A-Team may have been another show at Night Rider, but that was all they had at that time. And of course, back in the day too, one of the things I remember as a kid was there used to be a Saturday night movie that NBC used to do, just like CBS used to do Sunday night movies, and ABC used to have. Nowadays, people can go and watch Hulu and Apple TV and Vudu and all of these other Roku, all these other networks, uh, these online streaming channels that have different sitcoms on. So it's so spread out that they don't invest their monies in it, like talking about it. But then um, when Cosby comes along, he changes the game for the other networks too, because shortly after that, CBS Charlie Company, which starred the late Flip Wilson, who was a fellow comedian and friend of Bill Cosby. And I also have to say too, NBC also had to give me a break at the time with Nell Carter, but that show didn't. It lasted like 6 years, so it was a successful show. I remember watching it. I really love the theme song that Nell Carter had. Give me a break, cause I know what it takes. Putting the new beside the old one. I'm ready for anything. Making it great. Uh, so with the synthesizers and everything. So yeah, I remember those things. And in the '90s, you had TV shows on ABC like Family Matters. You had uh, Perfect Strangers and Full House, and I think Doogie Howser was in syndication. But Step by Step, and that made TGIF. Thank God It's Friday. Urkel was really the draw for TV, and 89 and 1990 when he first came on, and Family Matters was about to be canceled because it was spin off from Perfect Strangers, and it wasn't doing great in the ratings until they had the episode uh, where Laura goes on a date for her homecoming, I believe, and Carl finds a date for her, and the date is with Steve Urkel. And of course, Steve is the nerd, the school nerd, the neighborhood nerd, and uh, nobody wants to be around him. And it was supposed to just be a one role part, but because if he was so popular, they decided to come on set and cheer his name. And they decided to keep Steve on permanently, and he became the breakout star. And they kept bringing him back and back, and the ratings changed for that. And TGIF really was born. And I remember even Perfect Strangers, which was a great show at the time. It was funny. Balky Buck was the character. Unfortunately, we don't have. And behind all of those shows, the one great thing I can say, whether they were white, black, whatever, there was a morality that you learned in watching those. I'm trying to see you guys' connections unstable. It looks like I'm back. Okay. Even the horror TV shows that you watched back then, they had Tales from the Crypt on HBO, and I was about or I want to say 4 years old, 5 years old when I remember seeing the ghost, the ventriloquist dummy. Yeah, the ventriloquist dummy, which was freaked me out because Don Rickles' hand, twin brothers, basically on his hand, and he's murderous little midget, Siamese twin. So uh, it was scary. Yeah, things like that though. But they had a moral to that, even in throughout that show about uh, yeah, those television shows back then, uh, which were influenced by the Cosby Show, and certainly subsequently thereafter, shows like even on NBC, you had shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel Air that set the stage that followed Cosby to a degree, as well as In the House, and you really didn't see too many black shows after that. And one of the things that, getting back to TC Carson's comments, he talked about the fact that he was that challenged the authority there on Fox at Fox. I can remember when Martin had his 100th anniversary episode, and you can look this up on Martin's biography on A&E. Tashina Arnold, who played Pam, talked about the fact that when they had the 100th episode, Fox would not Fox did not have anything special laid out for them, congratulating, and I guess challenged and called them out. I'm sure Martin didn't have uh, too many nice things to say to the heads of Fox. And once he talked to them, they sent out some. better gifts to them and showed much larger appreciation. And that just gets to my point, especially with Brother TC Carson and what he relates about the struggles is that we will not see that type of positive programming ever on television again, more than likely. More likely, more likely than not, we will not see shows that show blacks in a positive image, or even family for that matter, where we show strong male characters in a positive light. And it is important that we can pull resources together to make sure that we can support black-owned media, black press, black filmmakers that want to show our people in a positive light, that we support them. And we continue to support them until we get a better quality that we can show our children and relive the things that we had back in the day. Uh, Sadly, I do think that there could be a reboot of, Family Matters. Maybe Netflix might pick it up and do that just to see, or even if it's to do a TV show. A TV show. Latoya asks, what do I consider positive? We don't have positive black male role models that we had back in the day, in the 90s and even in the 80s. When you had strong shows that showed strong black fathers, I'm talking about in a situation showed black positive characters, may have been the Soul Food TV series, which I don't even think lasted long, but maybe 4 or 5 years, which is not really a long time. And typical great season, a show that has a typically great lifetime is our shows that may last 7 to 8 years. When you look at your shows like All in the Family, like Cheers, which was on for 12 years, and that was actually struggling back on NBC too. See, it wasn't until Cosby came along that you had, of course, a different world came a little bit later, but it was Family Ties, it was Night Court, it was Cheers, and I think after that it was LA Law, something along those lines. But I remember when Night Court, particularly, was just funny as hell. Like I love Night Court. That was just a great job. It's great acting. The guy who created that actually created Barney Miller, which was a funny show. Or, or he was a writer for Barney Miller, if I'm not mistaken. But no, what I that's what I consider positive shows. When we see a black family, we don't see things like that blooming anymore. Yeah, I remember even with 227, you had the black mother and father and daughter in a black community. Things, you know, that stuck together, that everyone looked out for each other. It doesn't exist anymore. Cowardly. And unfortunately, I see more of that than anything. But your brother TC Carson, when he went to the heads of Fox, or to the hit writers, not the heads of Fox, but to the writers of Living Single, and complained about some of the scripts that they were getting, just like what John Amos did with Good Times back in the 70s when they complained about the JJ character and how stereotypical JJ's character was. John rated show. And of course we know that uh, what happened with John Amos if you look at his interview on the Television Academy Awards program, like it's basically a documentary show that they did an interview with him. Norman Lear called him up, told him he got good news and bad news, and then Norman Lear said, "Do you want the bad news?" He's like, "Yeah, go ahead." And he said, "You're not in it." And so, do you have anything to say? And John Amos says, "No, it's your show. Thank you." Click. That was it. And subsequently, John Amos did Roots. I wonder if it's, I'm sorry, I'm just reading the comments. It's not about just showing interest and support. A black television network where we can make those. And unfortunately, when we see, uh, sorry guys, okay, so when we don't take a hands-on, we don't own those things. That's the problem. And when we do have blacks celebrity and are able to produce movies, unfortunately they end up with things like the Madam C.J. Walker movie, which basically to me was an insult to all straight heterosexual black men. The way that the men were portrayed in the film was an absolute disgrace. Granted, it was inspired by the life of Madam C.J. Walker, but there was so much of an agenda that was being pushed in there that honestly did not make any sense. And most people don't really research things. They take things at face value when you say things. So that's why I try to be careful with my words and the things I say and do. But I think that, certainly if those shows did come back, the reboot of Family Matters, there had been talks of doing a reboot of A Different World right around the time that Bill Cosby, of course, was going through his trials and tribulations in 2014. There were talks about it. And unfortunately, those talks have stopped because Cosby, of course, created that series, still legally be entitled to any type of percentage that they have. But my understanding is that they don't even control that. So it's a matter of control. It's a matter of getting our people on board and owning things and owning those networks. Continue to see positive talk. You don't even have, forget even a positive show. We don't even have a black talk show anymore, late night talk show, like you had with Arsenio. And okay, so I'm we have a talk show, but that's going to be changing real soon. I'm getting something to help with the Wi-Fi here, but we don't have. Uh, we don't have a talk show host anymore since Arsenio. I'd be up. I'm sure right now we could use something like that. So let's find out. Again, I've talked about this before. How much does it cost to buy a television network? How much is the startup for all? We all got to start somewhere, so let's do it. And I've been over 20 minutes. This is now 34 minutes going on, 34 plus. You guys be safe, be blessed. Y'all look out for the next video. I'm actually do is going to put it on Patreon. I'm going to put my Patreon account up here for you guys to go to. I'm actually going to do that. I'm actually going to set up a podcast as well that I'm going to want you guys to subscribe. I need your full support, please. I know things are tough, but I appreciate any support you can give. Subscribe to this channel. Subscribe to the other channels, Brother Sean James, Nicole's View, Your World with Harvey, Ron Hurd from We All Be News, Torian Rain, Drew Hepton. You guys know it's my head, not my heart. So you guys be safe, be blessed, love y'all, peace. I'm out of here.